Good morning, everyone, and hello, wherever you are. This is 2A Radio Inside Liberia. We are broadcasting this morning from Pennsylvania, the United States of America. Today is a brand new day, and we are happy to be here. Wherever you are, we urge that you join us in today's broadcast. It's a very short broadcast, but we trust that it is going to be interesting because it has to do with a very important development in Liberia. As you may be aware, the Supreme Court of Liberia has delivered an opinion on the CPP case, meaning that the case that was before the National Elections Commission um, was appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has handed down a ruling. It is that ruling we want to carefully look at this morning because it's an ongoing discussion and there are issues that we're still concerned about whether they have been resolved as a result of the Supreme Court decision. For those of you who are not lawyers or who are not paying a lot of attention, Supreme Court ruling is not discussing Supreme Court ruling is not a form of disrespect to that honorable court. But it's a partisan way of doing law. All lawyers, as a matter of fact, in the study of law, study these cases law, and they all have to do with the decisions from past Supreme Court. It's called common law most of the time. So in this case, today we want to discuss the CPP framework. What is it that we want to discuss? Stay with us and we can try to bring you our own ideas. If you have interest, you just don't leave this broadcast because we might say something that will interest you or that will give you interest in discussing this important matter in Liberia. So the very first thing we want to do this morning is see where we are with this case. How did the case come about? The CPP, meaning the collaborating political parties, just to give you some facts, there were 4 political parties that decided to associate. Let me use the constitutional word. They decided to associate, and by that standard, the National Elections Commission has a guideline for political parties who want to contest elections. And if they decide to collaborate or to associate for the purposes of contesting election, the Constitution established the National Elections Commission, meaning the National Elections Commission is a constitutional creature, meaning that organization was established by the Constitution to conduct elections or to conduct the activities of political parties. Hence, they are charged with the responsibility to conduct elections. Hence, the NEC, or the National Elections Commission, has that obligation within the governance authority in Liberia, within the government. So from that point, the National Elections Commission, the National Legislature expanded the constitutional authority of the National Elections Commission, created a statute that further expanded the authority of that institution. And because of that, the National Election Commission also established guidelines or set requirements as per the Constitution and Statute of the Republic of Liberia in the business, in the way of conducting their business. Meaning looking at the political parties, how the functions, whether they have proper offices, whether they have sufficient money, whether they are raising funds, not from outside. So that's how they go about setting the requirements. And it is by statute, and it is by setting the rules. So you got to realize that you have the Constitution of Liberia that established the National Elections Commission, and you also have the statute that also empowers or expands their authorities, and you have rules that is created by the National Elections Commission. So these 3 instruments, the Constitution, the statute, and the rules, is the authority upon which the National Election Commission operates. Now, the collaborating political parties, the four parties, that is the Unity Party, the All Liberian Party, the Liberty Party, and the Alternative National Congress. These four political parties came together with the sole purpose of having a formidable force to win elections, to defeat George Weah. Okay, so what did they do? On April 25th, 2020, the four collaborating political parties that are separately registered as political parties within the Republic of Liberia. To register means you must have filed an article of incorporation with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and you get the authority to run a political party. Now, the article of incorporation of all political party is an association. So when the Constitution says you must associate, and that's going to be the key point of our discussion this morning. When the Constitution says you must associate, you must disassociate, that has been defined by the national legislature. How do people in Liberia associate, and how do people in Liberia disassociate? Especially when you look at the issue of political parties or institutions that want to do politics in Liberia. So on the 25th of April 2020, these political parties, they agreed, they agreed in form, they agreed in agreement, they agreed to do business together. So they requested the National Elections Commission and say, hey, please, we want to operate. We know we are individual political parties, but we want to operate as an alliance, as an association, as a group, as a collaborating party. So the National Election Commission, okay, if you want to do that, we have these guidelines, you need to follow these guidelines. When you follow these guidelines, then we'll allow you now, saying you are already registered political parties individually, we will allow you to operate as a collaboration. So that authority was given them on August 11, 2022. The National Elections Commission of Liberia wrote the CPP then chairman, Senator Daniel Nathan of Baplo County, agreeing that the four political parties were allowed to operate as a collaboration. And that was on August 11, 2022. So that NEC decision was also based on Article 79 of the 1986 Constitution. If you read Article 79, we're not going to do that because we don't have much time here. If you read Article 79 of the 1986 Constitution, that set the National Elections Commission as an autonomous agency to conduct elections, they acted to allow the four political parties to do their activities of elections as a group. So at that point, the National Election Commission looked at the four political parties as a unit to do business. And in the face of that, these individuals, these political parties, contested the by-election, that was held in Liberia. There was no confusion, there was no disagreement, and they met all of the requirements, and they were allowed to participate into elections. So that election, majority of the senatorial seats were won by the collaborating political parties. And then they were certificated, and those individuals are serving within the government of Liberia. Those who contested on the CPP's ticket, not on the individual political party's ticket, on the CPP's ticket. Now, we want you to take note of that. So you got to realize we talk about the framework that brought about the political party. We talk about the certification process that the National Election Commission considered these four parties to operate as a unit. And then these individuals acted in the contested election and they won election. Most of the senatorial seats in the by-election, the guys won them. So then after all of those things, another by-election, meaning when all of those senators were certificated and then inducted into the Liberian Senate, one person was disallowed on the basis of challenge, and a lot of rigmaroles went on. Who was that person? It was Lofa County Senator-elect Brandon J. Samuka. Brandon Samuka was then challenged, and you know the rest of the story, and he was denied his seat. And there's a lot that has gone on. It is that out of that confusion today we are still here, that this matter has not been resolved, except and that's the reason why we are here to discuss the ruling of the Supreme Court. So the United Party's winner, that is Brandon Samuka from Lofa County, his seat is where all of his confusion is coming from, because he was denied to take his seat, even though he won the election in Lofa County. So from that point, there is this consideration by the parties of the collaboration that you must operate as a unit, but two of their constituents, meaning the All Liberian Party and the United Party, in the very by-election now for Brandon Samuka's seat, the Alternative National Congress of Alexander Cummings decided to challenge these two parties that they needed not defeat a candidate. So that where this matter was decided by the National Elections Commission. And the National Election Commission, the hearing officer, and the Board of Commissioners said, wait a minute, you have a framework document from which argument has come about. The two political parties, let's say three political parties of the four political parties, that is the All Liberian Party, the Liberty Party, the faction of the Liberty Party, and that of the Unity Party. They said now that, look, wait a minute, Article 8.5, Section 2 of the framework document is in violation of the Constitution. It violates our rights. It is that argument all along has all been in public. None one of these individuals ever challenged or filed a complaint with the National Election Commission to say, hey, wait a minute, we filed a framework document, we ran on this document, we have seats within the Senate on this document, but this document has some fraudulent things. And because of that, we cannot be in this collaboration. Now, this is a cross, and this is where my argument today is all about. You contested on the framework document. You are bound by the framework document. And at this point, you have disagreed, and then they took an appeal, took an exception from the ruling of the National Election Commission's officers and the Board of Commissioners. Therefrom, the decision of the Supreme Court comes about. The Supreme Court has decided. And what are some of the things that you understand? We want to ask the question, from the Supreme Court decision, what you ordinary people, you that are discussing elections matter, you that are discussing political parties, what is your understanding of the decision of the Honorable Supreme Court? before you either decide, okay, you know what, Supreme Court has spoken, or everybody should be quiet at this time. No, that's not how you operate. In the running of democracy, when the court speaks, the Constitution says they have the final say. Nevertheless, the people within the country can discuss the ruling of the Supreme Court. Lawyers supposed to be discussing the Supreme Court. Media institutions should be discussing the Supreme Court decision. Even if you're not a lawyer, the textual meaning of or the textual words of the ruling, you have a reason, the basis to discuss these rulings. To strengthen democracy, we need to discuss these matters. So, what is it? What has the Supreme Court said? Well, the Supreme Court has spoken. And we are looking into the Supreme Court decision. We can disagree with the Supreme Court decision. We can agree with the Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court themselves can disagree with their own decision in some time of either now or the future. They can record their own decision. So that's the reason why we are here this morning, to look into the Supreme Court decision. And we just want to look at some of the basics. But let me ask you, the listeners, or you Liberians that are supposed to be discussing this matter, what is the understanding? Where do you think the framework document is right now? The Supreme Court said we are concerned about 8.5 Section 2 of the framework document. And the Supreme Court said it's in violation of the Constitution. So because of that 8.5.2 should not exist. So are you clear that the framework document exists? Or are you in the view that the framework document no longer exists? How? So these are the questions. Did the Supreme Court answer the question as to whether the framework document exists in totality, not just the 8.5 Section 2 of the framework document? Is the National Elections Commission going to still hold other political parties or all the 4 political parties as per that framework document, with the exception of 8.52 of the CPP framework document? If the framework document does not exist, or if the framework document by implication of the Supreme Court decision does not exist, if it was void as a result of someone who decided to insert the 8.52 according to their own argument, what happens to the senators elected on this very document? Now, these are questions of common sense that we always ask. And then we can juxtapose that with the ruling of the Supreme Court and see whether we can make sense out of what the Supreme Court has said and what the reality of things are. How do political parties, in fact, disassociate? The Supreme Court of Liberia should be aware of the Association Law of Liberia, Title 5 of the Association Law of Liberia. It exists. It clearly spelled out how political parties or associations supposed to associate and how they should disassociate. Is that association law now, as per the ruling of the Supreme Court, which is which? So when we ask all of these questions, some of us who have some little understanding of the law, we are asking more questions, and we think these questions may have bearing on the political activities in Liberia, and not just the political activities. There are associations in Liberia that also should be concerned with this ruling. Like the Press Union of Liberia is an association, the Liberian Marketing Association of Liberia, the Female Lawyers Association of Liberia, you have the Liberian National Bar Association. So all of these associations should be looking into the decision of the Supreme Court. How do they disassociate? So when conflict comes about, lawyers now will start making reference to this identical ruling in the future. So this case is a case law. So we have to discuss it, we have to understand it in order to think about what may happen tomorrow, even what may happen just after the decision and what is going to happen with the National Election Commission. So the democracy that you all yearn for is not just to go to the ballot box, come out and sit down and don't do nothing. You need to, because if Liberians begin conscious and begin to discuss issues like this, the ruling of the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court themselves become conscious of their decisions. Some of us who are lawyers, we know how the Supreme Court decisions come about. Okay, we're not going to go into that. What is before us is the few questions that I've asked you. What is now the status of the framework document of the CPP? Everybody seems to be either jubilating, others are discussing this matter. Now, within this thing, there is a case at the magisterial court. What happens to that case? How is it going to be proceeded with? Is it going to be the usual Liberian thing? Okay, that our big fire has reigned in Liberia from the Supreme Court, so then everything is like that, it just becomes still? We don't think so. There are actions that should be taken into consideration in dealing with these matters. So the question we're asking this morning is, the CPP framework document, is it still living? Is it a living framework document for operation of these political parties? Or is the National Election Commission going to take the ruling of the Supreme Court and disregard the framework document? Is it going to allow political parties, as per the ruling of the Supreme Court, for them to operate individually? How do we, or is just going to be, okay, you know what, that document is just going to die naturally? Is that what's going to happen? Now, this is the crux of some of our discussion, but let me look at some of the decisions of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, in their decision, held that the National Election Commission, as an administrative body that has the authority over elections and political party, has no power to declare status and rights as requested by the Unity Party and all Liberian parties. These people were appellee. It said this was an issue of jurisdiction, so the National Election Commission should not have entertained, in fact, this matter at all. Well, the Supreme Court has the final say, but there are issues in there. In this first concern of the National Election of the Supreme Court, we asked some few questions in there, and let's see how it works. If the National Elections Commission is the authority, constitutional authority that should conduct elections and activities of political parties, the issue of status, the Supreme Court says, status and rights. We're talking about rights and making reference to associations and disassociations. There is a statute, Title 5 of the Association Law of Liberia, clearly says how people should associate and disassociate. If association is a right that is only to be discussed by the National Election Commission, it means the Supreme Court ruling is also challenging the statutory law of Liberia. So this is a point where I will emphasize very seriously, if the national legislature herself is conscious to know about the statute that was created by them. Let me remind you, the Supreme Court has no authority to amend any law in the Republic of Liberia. The Supreme Court has no authority to create any law in the Republic of Liberia. So if this association law of Liberia, Title 5, that spells out how individuals are supposed to associate and disassociate, now it's a right accrued to political parties, to individuals, that the Press Union of Liberia, the Female Lawyers Association of Liberia, the Liberal National Bar Association, and all other marketing associations, all other associations in the Republic of Liberia that are told that before you associate, you must have an article of incorporation. You must have an executive committee. You must have officers laid out within the article of incorporation. You must say how you're going to run your affairs. You must say how people should live, this organization. If you have money and resources, you get together, you must decide how to distribute those resources. We just opposed that with the Supreme Court decision. We asked ourselves, what is now going to happen to the statutory law of Liberia? Has the Supreme Court amended the statutory law of Liberia to declare this as a right, as a status and right? We will tell the Supreme Court, hey, wait a minute, you don't have no right. The statute, you cannot undo the statute. All you're supposed to say is say what the law is. If you say, wait a minute, this is a violation of the rights of the people, that is your duty as honorable members of the Supreme Court. But you should have been aware that there is a statutory body, the statutory institution, not statutory institution. There's a statute that exists, the 1976 statute. That is the Title 5 of the 1976 statute. Is being amended, I think, three different times. That statute still exists, and it clearly defines how people should associate and disassociate. What is happening to that statute? The Supreme Court decision did not touch on those things. It only fought hard to discuss Article 5.6. Now, let me say this. In my view, 8.52 is in compliance of the statute. How people should associate and disassociate. So if the Supreme Court is saying this 8.52 is in violation, then I will be, by extension, I will say, well, the Supreme Court is also saying Title 5 of the Association Law of Liberia of 1986 and all other amendments is in violation of the Constitution, because it also says that how people should associate and disassociate. So the Supreme Court did not think about the Association Law of Liberia. So we then say we disagree with the Supreme Court opinion, because there are some issues the Supreme Court did not address, and those issues are on the statutory laws of the Republic of Liberia. Now, if I was involved in matters like this, which law do I depend on? No, there's Constitution, the statute, and then the common law, the opinions of the Supreme Court. If I cite the Constitution, I prevail. If I cite the statute, I prevail. Right? Before talk about common law. So, except the Supreme Court says this common law is in violation of the Constitution, then those lawmakers will see the reason to amend that section of the law, because the law exists. So when the Supreme Court strikes a provision of a law, it is the obligation of the framers to get together and say, this section, we will delete this section. Now, in my little opinion in law or idea in law, the framers of the CPP framework document, that framework document still exists. You know why it exists? Because the Supreme Court says 8.52 is what they were resolving. So these people have right to leave anytime. And these people see themselves as not being part of CPP anymore. That's what they think. But no, that's not how it should work. Supreme Court has only spoken on a section of a CPP framework document. The framework document still bound those political parties. Until what? Until they go before the National Elections Commission. And I think this is where the Supreme Court also feel. Supreme Court should have mandated these people to go back to the National Election Commission and do what they need to do best as to how they can get out of the CPP, either resolve the CPP or take other actions. This is what we think, that when laws are created, there are ways in which these laws can be dealt with, as to whether it is an instrument that can live after us tomorrow. The National Election Commission certificate of these people, what is happening to that certificate? Is it void as a result of Supreme Court decision? They all have the certificate. Supreme Court did not say anything about those things. They wouldn't say, okay, we get this thing to do. The Supreme Court was on obligation to look at all of these surrounding circumstances to deal with it. If they didn't do, we disagree with the Supreme Court decision. waiting their cardinal issues the Supreme Court did not address. Now, National Election Commission are going to be figuring out how are we going to deal with these people. Okay, the people themselves think, okay, no, we have individual political party. Yes, you have individual political party. You are registered political party as Unity Party, as Alliance of all Liberian Party, rather, as the Liberty Party, as an alternative National Congress. But in the governing structure of the government, the Constitution has a power authority. All right, it has in terms of remember now, the Supreme Court is also a child of the Constitution, and the National Election Commission is a child of the Constitution. The difference is that the how you call it, the NEC, the National Election Commission, must deal with election matters, political institutions, and the Supreme Court deals with interpreting the laws of the country. Okay, so then on this session, we look in the Association Law of Liberia. The association, those of you who have interest, go and find Title 5 of the Association Law of Liberia about all of these things, the corporate law, corporations, talk about the different aspect of association and what have you. All right. So that's why we ask the question: what happened to the statute? Is a statute in violation of the Constitution of Liberia? I think the Supreme Court will have to either look into these matters, and in looking at these matters, maybe one day they will record their own decisions. But there are many issues that is ahead of Liberia when it comes to 2023 election. The way people look at activities, when people talk about peaceful elections, all of these surrounding circumstances are baggage of things that could go into election and that could make a lot of tension in the electoral process. Now, people are calling for the dissolution of the Election Commission. People are saying the National Election Commission is not competent to conduct election because of the Supreme Court decision. Is the George Weah administration going to change commissioners of the National Election Commission as a result of what people are saying right now? So all of these things, people must begin to think what's going to happen from now to 2023 elections. Because if people say the National Election Commission is not credible, is not competent to conduct elections, and the Election Commission remains as it is, what happens to 2023 election? These are issues that we should be thinking about, and to which we all should be discussing these matters and help for the growth of Liberia's democracy. Okay, so that goes to that point, and just to continue on the Supreme Court decision, the Supreme Court said what? Whether Section 8.52 of the CPP framework document is illegal and an unenforceable contract because it violates Article 17 and 79 of the Constitution of Liberia, or whether it is protected under the doctrine of sanity of contract as provided for in Article 25 of the Constitution of Liberia. Now, I've said a lot. Article 17 talk about how individuals and institutions, people, supposed to associate and how they should disassociate. And I'll talk a lot about the association law. That is what lawyers, the national legislature, is charged to do. If there are some ambiguities, if there are issues within the Constitution that the lawyers, lawyers or people who are within the national legislature think that they can expound the meaning of a provision of the Constitution, like the Constitution says, people, it's a right to associate and disassociate. How? Is that how the statute has answered? Is that how the statute has addressed? Title 5 of the Association Law of Liberia addressed the issue as how people should associate and how people should disassociate. That is found within the statute. So if the Supreme Court is making a decision on this article, we now look at the statute and the opinion of the Supreme Court. And we ask all of the questions that may just face the National Election Commission or people who are associating in the ambit of Liberia, in the Liberian society. So if they are association, even if I myself part of any association, I will be thinking that, there's something I was looking at from the decision. It's easier when individuals just meet and say, you know what, we're going to do few things. Those who found Susu Club, or people who come together to have, or how you call it, uh, different groups. They are associating, but in the real sense of the word, there's no article of incorporation, nothing bound them, and all of this stuff. They operate in that way. At that time, in those kind of circumstances, I would apply this ruling that these people, anybody just gonna say me, I go in my way, or not going my way, because guess what? There is no law that bound them. But if individuals came together, okay, we agree to associate, and they went further to get an article of incorporation. That article of incorporation is clearly spelling out what they're supposed to do. And then when they did all of that, then they have a piece of document that bounds them as per the statute. Now, to go away from that article of incorporation, that article of incorporation also spell out how people should, dissolve, or how they should deal with any circumstances, like putting money together and how to distribute it, and all of those stuff. They go into that. And the association, they have an article in association, they have the constitution and bylaws of this group. So these documents are not just in vain. These documents bound these people together. So if you enter a piece of document like a framework document, you register, you are a legal entity. You have a right to associate. You have a right to agree with other legal entities to operate. If you did all of that, you are guided by pieces of laws. So this is where we are, and that's how we can discuss this. There's a statute that talks about the association laws of Liberia and how people get together and how they're supposed to disassociate. They all form part of the Title V. So we leave that with you, Liberians. You have the opinion of the Supreme Court. You have the statute. Somebody will say, oh, the Supreme Court has spoken is final. Yes, we agree. Supreme Court has spoken is final. But what Supreme Court has said, there's still some issues that are serving as an issue for the sphere of our society. All right, there's an association law of Liberia, Title 5. I said it, Title 5. Go and find it, read it. I don't have the time to read any section here, but it spelled out a lot of stuff. All right, so that's what we end on that issue. So whether or not 8.52 has been struck by the Supreme Court has resolved the framework document. The frameworks of the framework document no longer exist. There's another issue that I found. Let me throw in this one in the Supreme Court decision. If the Supreme Court said they were only dealing with 8.52, these political parties are signatories of the framework document. The document becomes authentic as a result of signatures. So that further buttress my argument that these people are still bound by the framework document. Because what? They signed the framework document. So somebody will say, oh, they took my signature from this play and put it to, oh, well, that is an argument. You go to the before national, the Supreme Court is not going to hear these fights. They did not hear this fight because it is not their duty to hear these fights. They only get the summary note of all of these things. Go and take the meaning of from the National Election Commission and carry it upstairs. And that's what they base a decision on. But there's a lot more to be discussed. The framework document, in my opinion, still exists. Now, this is where you're going to disagree with me. Some of you guys who just interested in, discussing politics, on a smaller note, if I may say, the framework document still exists. So if the Supreme Court has ruled, the Supreme Court has not amended the framework document. It is not their business to amend the framework document. So the executive committees of the different political parties, you must be men enough to still convene and take some decisions on the framework document. And then you go back to the National Election Commission. You want to discard this thing, they must go and file and withdraw this framework document. That's what I would think that a law-abiding society would do. You don't just sit outside and say, okay, the court has ruled, and so that is it. Because guess what? You did sign that framework document. You were certificated by the National Election Commission. So you have a duty. The National Election Commission also, she's caught between the seas. She doesn't want to take certain decisions because the High Court has spoken. Now that commission itself need a seasoned lawyer to say, wait a minute, this is what the court have said. This is why before all these political parties, they still have to come and scratch and get rid of whatever they want to do. Somebody would say Johnson is talking making some kind of a noise. Well, in a very good democratic society like the America that I sit in, people will discuss these things. Law students will discuss these matters. So this is where we are on this matter. The statute exists, the framework document exists, the Constitution is living. Supreme Court has spoken about it. It is their duty to say what law is, what is contravening the law. They have said what they wanted to say. So that's what we are. And you who want to run political party, you should be men enough to also be able to read between the lines. It's not because, I see something that's happening in Liberia when, like when the Supreme Court speak, people are in the street, people are making statements, people want to take decisions. When you are executive committee members of political party, you must be able to take your idea from the street. Don't be a street. Let me be careful with my words. Don't take street argument as a way of resolving matters. There are processes. The Association Law of Liberia, that's what they say. What your article of incorporation, your constitution and bylaws spell out officers and their authorities. So the executive committees of these 4 political parties need to be. Don't sit down and say, Daniel Nathan should be talking and say, no, I'm not part of these people, or it's not coming say, I can't speak to Joseph Brackett, or Joseph Brackett, I can't speak to somebody say, oh, this person is a road, the other person say this person is dishonest, other person. That's not the issue yet. The issue is you have a piece of document you are working with. So you people should be able to take phones and call. Look, the Supreme Court is ruling. What are we going to do as political parties? Mature political parties should sit down and know how to go about these matters. Your disagreement is different. It's like 2 lawyers in the bar and they are arguing. They are not enemies. When they leave the bar, they must be able to shake hands and say, my man, look, okay, but I think I had a stronger argument. Okay, no, the court will decide. All right. That's not society. Democracy is people must talk. People must talk. That's healthy for democracy. Now, when you are leaders, you are especially a political party, you are heading group of human beings. And these people, some of them, no disrespect to anybody. They're looking up to you guys because they have their own limitations. So the way you conduct yourself, you feel confusion in the land. And don't be surprised when these people start taking stones and causing more havoc. Because while you fail to conduct yourself as a mature political parties, as institutions that should be living by the laws of the Republic of Liberia. The law is not just a constitution. You are also created a law, a piece of law. That framework document is a law. It's a piece of document that you, framers, you are also framers. Those who drafted that piece of document and all of you people sign, it bounds all of you people together. So your signature is there, and of course, say we only have to do with 8.52. So when you say you're walking away, and the court say you have a right to walk away, that's why we ask some questions. Those are narrow issues. We ask the question: what happened to the framework document when your signature is on it? Do you just walk away? No, you don't walk away. That document is living. That's an issue for you all members of the party. You people should be thinking about. I know somebody goes, Jensen is crazy, and this and that. No, I'm not crazy. I'm reading pieces of law here, and I'm just trying to add my emphasis on that. I wish I had another lawyer to, when you call somebody to come and debate, they say, no, this and that. Liberians, you need to talk. A healthy democracy, you must discuss this issue. It's not about fighting. It's not about insulting anybody. It's not about anything else. Disagree with the people. If it is Supreme Court, your common sense says, no, this is not right. Hey, there's nothing wrong saying it. Absolutely nothing wrong saying it. Okay? So there are a lot of instruments into these matters. And we think you, political parties, executive committees of political parties, there must have been reason why they make you an executive committee of a political party. You don't have somebody understanding. All the political parties should have lawyers. You put your lawyers together, say, these are the instruments we have to work with. And the reason some of us are coming and talking these matters is also healthy. If you don't have to like me, and for me, I don't even have to like you, because some of these discussions, and then think about it. Do we have executive committees? Yes, you do have. You have officers. What are the duties you assign these officers? They have a duty. When there is an issue like this, the executive committee member should be able to sit and discuss. The officers of the political party should sit there and talk. It's not just about Joseph Boakai. Like the Unity Party people running around. Oh, Joseph Boakai is not the Unity Party. That's another issue for someday we're going to be discussing here. We're going to intensify our discussion as you guys get ready for election. The Unity Party has corps of officers. So when you're discussing Joseph Boakai, no, he only sitting at the top there. The Unity Party was in power for 12 years. Joseph Boakai was just part of it. So you're talking about Unity Party, you're talking about a group of people, not Joseph Boakai. Unity Party is not Joseph Boakai. Don't make it sound like it's Joseph Boakai. I think Ellie is still a member of the Unity Party, if I'm not mistaken. She has not withdrawn her membership, right? So Joseph Boakai is at the top. Whether they like Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf is still a member of Unity Party. So if Unity Party is going to election, I mean, Ellen Johnson-Sirleaf and all of the members of the Unity Party are going to election. Okay, that's a different issue. Let me not go that far. So executive committee members must be able to discuss the issues that are affecting them. Okay? And it is important for Liberia's democracy. Very important. And we cannot sit and ignore these matters. Okay? And if I may just read, they say, well, the contention is about filling a candidate in their names after withdrawal. Now, this is where I would strongly disagree with the Supreme Court. Who has withdrawn? What is the process of withdrawing from the framework document? The Supreme Court should have clearly defined it, and this is my opinion. Nobody need to like me for this. The Supreme Court did not say how these people should withdraw. It says, well, that's a right. They can go their separate way. These people are not individuals. They are institutions. Supreme Court, are you telling me in the Association Law of Liberia, these people all have in their pockets and in their cupboard, they can just disagree with it and then that's it? How do they withdraw from the framework document? That is their own creation. How? Oh, the Constitution says rights. Yeah, the Constitution says rights. The statutory creators, those who are supposed to make laws, they say, well, they look at this association, they write that the Supreme Court is emphasizing, say, well, these people, they are set up procedural. They all members of the Supreme Court, they know that there's an association law of Liberia that gave everyone the opportunity to form an article of incorporation, to form a constitution, to form a statute. And these statutes are all part of the NEC requirement. So poor NEC now is now caught between the seas. They themselves are going to be thinking what to do. All right. So from all of these circumstances, the rest of the court decision, those of you who are reading, you can read. But we still ask these questions today. The framework document, the CPP, what's happening to them? If the framework document doesn't exist, this is where you say the country of law. That means you must strike all of those senators that were elected on the CPP document. The National Election Commission should revoke their certification and create more vacancy for Liberia to go back to the polls. Let it go and contest on individual parties. Let it stand on their own bottom. Strike all of these elected senators. If the framework document is illegal, doesn't exist, because guess what? When you void a provision and the signatories think that they have withdrawn, that means that framework document doesn't exist, shouldn't exist. So what is not done legally is not done at all. So all of those folks that got elected on the CPP document, strike all of them. Someone will say that one that's a different argument. No, when you talk that one person, no, that one, the Supreme Court didn't say that one there. Because people want to protect their interest. They don't want to look at the laws. Or if you say the law you're arguing about is not legal, somebody fraudulently created it, people contested on it. These people are not legal. They shouldn't exist. When you talk, when you talk the one, then you step on other people's toes, right? You want to live by the laws. You argue, you don't think it. Supreme Court say, let's agree now with the Supreme Court. Let all of us agree with the Supreme Court. Oh, the Supreme Court has tried. So we're not part of the people now. We are withdrawn, so we're not part of them. Meaning anything that you did is not done good, right? So all the noise you were causing going for the then by-election, people contested, Liberian people that have the right to contest and give you power, acted, was on the basis of the framework document, the collaboration you form. Maybe Unity Party could not have won a seat, or ALP would not have won a seat, or how you call it, ANC would not have won a seat if you all were going to go just on your separate ways. But your force together brought on board these senators. So these senators don't have root. If the framework document doesn't exist, they have no root, meaning they should get out of the Senate. Oh, yes. If you say the framework document is fraudulent, is not good, is not a law to respect, and the Supreme Court say, yeah, you have a right to withdraw. You withdraw. You withdraw all your signatures. There are proper ways to withdraw. And that's where I'll blame the Supreme Court. How do these political parties withdraw from the framework document? They have their signature. It's not just 8.5 the Supreme Court should have looked at. Should have looked at the entire framework document. Even though the contention was 8.5, by the parity of reasoning, 8.5 affects the entire document because these people are arguing they are signatories of the document. So in actual sense, how do they withdraw from the document? It is provided for in Title 5 of the Association Law of Liberia. So if you vote, if you say, oh, this is an illegitimate document, it's now, no, people play with this thing. The national, that's what I agree with the National Election Commission. I don't know, even though Supreme Court says National Election Commission, but my opinion, the National Election Commission said, well, we are not a party to your issues. That was the National Election Commission. We are not party to your issues. So all you need to do, hey, do the right thing. And for God in heaven's sake, all of those people, they know how to do it, but they want to argue. They want to feel like, okay, it's all right. Supreme Court has spoken on your withdrawal. Okay. Suppose the National Election Commission, the Board of Commissioners met. They said, based on the Supreme Court decision, voting this framework document before us, we hereby revoke the certificate of all of those senators. That would be a big noise in the country, right? At the time, people were talking about public policy, this one, that, and all of those stuff. So, the Supreme Court did that. Now, the NEC did that. Then they all run back to the Supreme Court, right? People don't want to accept reality. They want to be called the country of laws. The country of laws, you must respect the laws. There are procedures and practices upon which people get involved in doing certain things. Special association is defined. Article 17 speaks, but the legislature also spoke, and that is the statute. And that statute says how people associate and how people should disassociate. So when you take differences to associate and to disassociate, and you want to say it's a right, that right, I will put it in context that it's a special category of right. Association, that means you have a right to associate, and that right to associate is defined because when people associate, people bring a lot of things together, and the management of those things matters to the national legislature, and that's what they look at. When people come together to associate, they must be guided, and that is why, in the wisdom of the legislature, they went ahead Title 5 of the 1976 statute define these procedural steps to follow, right? So basically, that's what we have to talk about, and these issues, we're still following them. This is Liberia. We know how things come about. People come out like wildfire, and people get out there, they argue, they discuss, and sometimes just to do what they need to do is where the problem lies. Okay, so our discussion this morning was just to look at these circumstances and ask ourselves these questions. If you have answers for it, good enough. If people think there's sort of way to go about it, some of us just following this event, and we want to energize Liberian democracy, and we want to get involved in calling on Liberians how you can make that country better. If you get to respect one another, to discuss in a very friendly way, stick to your points. You want to disagree with me, but it doesn't mean we are enemies. You can disagree with the Supreme Court. You know why? When the Supreme Court opinions are widely discussed, you know what happened? Next time, they're not going to look at how do you call them? Their law clerks. Because some of these people just in the law class go about, they draft whatever they're supposed to draft before, then they scan through it and all of those things. They say, okay, no, I think this is good. No. Like in America right now, there's a lot of argument going on at the level of the Supreme Court. The American Bar Association, people are writing articles every day. And for those who want to learn something, those articles expand the knowledge of people. The judges themselves on the high court, they read some of these opinions. They look at people. Liberian lawyer, by the time you say, hey, let's discuss it, me and Supreme Court, all, they're scared because the court may just, and now I don't want to say the court instilling fear because you have not challenged your court in any form and manner. But we should be reading articles. We should be reading disagreement. I want to read articles from the Chief Justice. I want to read books from the Chief Justice of Liberia. I want to read books from all of the associate justices. I want to read articles from these people. And then I will know that I know how informed they are. I will know what position they are taking, whether they are constitutionalists, whether they are textualists, whether they are, looking in the direction of or how, some of these laws go. Somebody talking public policy, a good argument, but I didn't want to buy into that one because there's so much things that was missing, in my opinion, from the court when you talk about public policy. All right. So when we keep discussing, people will, like even when you discuss what I'm discussing right now, and I hear your comments, some of your comment may just make a lot of sense. And I will just step into it to make me to read more and to also come on. Maybe I'll come on your post and say, hey, wait a minute, let me challenge you a little bit. Let's discuss this matter. Democracy worked well. Not by taking the guns. And to avoid taking the guns, you have to be careful how you do this thing. All of you are actors. Political parties, executive, the officers of political party, you all are actors within the Liberian political sphere. The way you go about doing things, you are part of the conflict that will come tomorrow. So as executive committee members, you need to do what you need to do. All right? Having said that, we have 4 more minutes to go, and we think Liberia can get better. How to get better? We all have a responsibility. And when conflict is going around, you look into these directions of the conflict and see how you can help to resolve the conflict. And that's where political parties, officers of political parties, need to establish a greater level of maturity. A greater level of maturity should be where you sit and look at yourself and say, get up, wait a minute, I need to look at the Supreme Court opinion. Or can we meet as executive committee members of Party A? Or can we urge all of us, the 4 political party executive committee members, to meet? Even though we have our differences, can we meet and sit? Who knows? Maybe out of the discussion, you can still form a formidable force. Maybe you can still come together, right? The reason of the mind. Trust me, if you go individually, the strength you had to win those seats, you're not going to win them. The party, you get your own baggages. ANC, you get your own problem. ALPA, I don't want to talk about that. You get your own issues. People are going to be blending you with different names and all of this thing. But when you come together, sometimes for people to blend you, somebody who has white shirt and you have a black shirt, and you're standing together, maybe the white shirt just cover the black shirt. As a result, they see you, they say, oh yeah, the people, they look good together. Oh, the picture is good. And in the picture, that picture is good, right? So you need to be mature enough. It's not about getting in the street. It's not about social media is good. It's good to be on the social media. It's good to be in the press. It's healthy. But you need to take some extra steps that will make your leadership, your right as a participant, very unique. All right, we have 2 more minutes. And so I can see Abraham here. You say he's from the grounds of the Ministry of Information. Okay, wish you well, Abraham. Okay, so Amos White, your points are all creamy, intellectual, and legally sound, senior brother. But the Supreme Court decision is unraveled. Well, that's an opinion, Amos, and you don't think the political marriage is free entry and free exit? That's a good point. Political marriages is not, Amos, if you are married, then you talk about marriage. If you get married, do you just feed the people's daughter, you say you're married to her, and you think you're married, and you go to court, and they give marriage certificate? That marriage certificate is what bounds you people. It's the contract between you, Amos, your wife, and the state. So you don't just get married in the morning, get out, you say, no, the woman, no, maybe she not even brush your mortgage, she don't wash your face, you say, no, you're too ugly. Today, you must say, make it, I'm walking away. You take a bag and walk away. That's not how marriages work. When you marry, there are procedural steps in which you must divorce. You get that, Amos? There are procedural steps in which you must divorce. When you don't divorce, you even like leave that woman, you go listen out somewhere, you say, sorry for the words, you go and stop with another woman. If that woman smash, you will know that you're still married. The law, the state still know you to be married to that woman. It's not because you walk away. Even in that instant, if you run to the Supreme Court says, look, you white man, you had a right to associate that woman, so you can walk away. It doesn't work that way, Amos. You don't have a right to just get up in the morning and say, no, man, my association with you ends today, so I go my way. No, you don't do that. You have to go back to court, file a petition for divorce. There must be a hearing consistent with law, and then the court must come with a decision. So we are saying you people are incompatible. You have a right to, at this stage, to be considered separate human beings. But until you do that, that marriage certificate is a legal instrument between you people. And say you use the word, we think the framework document is a legal instrument. All right. And so that's how we end today's discussion. To those of you who have been with us, we want to say thank you so much. It's a pleasant thing to join us every time to discuss these matters. Liberia's democracy can grow better if you do respect the laws of the land. That is the Constitution, the statute, the rules of the different administrative bodies. Until then, this has been James Johnson. Join us next time. We will be glad to give you our own take on matters that affect that society. It's a pleasure, and trust me, we would love you to have quality time with us every time we come on this broadcast. Have a pleasant day. Those of you who are now well, we wish you speedy recovery. Those of you who I find it difficult to find ends meet, we wish God will provide or bring someone along your way to smoothen and brighten your day. Have a good night. Have a good day and a pleasant, wonderful day. Bye for now.